Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all of those spots at Hawk Blogger. Just getting back yesterday from Atlanta, where the Seahawks won again, 37-9, and set themselves up for a pretty interesting stretch run. And every Tuesday, we get to hang out with Matt Hasselbeck, one of the best players to ever play for the Seahawks. Certainly one of my favorite players to cheer for, and it's been a great time getting to know him a little bit better. How you doing on this Tuesday, Matt?
I'm doing great. Would you say the Seahawks won? Yeah, they did.
Just by a bit. Just by a bit.
I mean, we've talked about it. I'm coaching high school football, but a lot of their games this year have been like high school football games. Kind of like, all right, on the headsets, like the conversations go like this, like, hey, when do you want to get the other guys in? It's like they're having that conversation a bunch. They might even be having it at halftime. Now, maybe not at this halftime because it was a little dicey early, but they've had a great season. It's very exciting and they control their own destiny. So it's a great place to be.
You're leading me right into some stuff I wanted to ask you about the game, but I'm going to start it somewhere else. I'm going to start somewhere else because I'm dying to get. I think people would love to know a little bit more. A lot of guys like Tobeck is a fisherman. Like everyone's got a hobby. They've got a dominant passion. Like outside of football and coaching football and being a dad and a husband, what does Matt Hasselbeck do as like, a side, your dad was a painter. Like what's your side thing, man?
Yeah, I mean, and Hutch is becoming a farmer. I don't know if you
is he? I don't know that. Yeah, is Gray Zabel having an influence on Hutch?
I think there's a bromance there for sure. Like, yeah, it's like Einhorn is Finkel, Finkel is Einhorn. Like, who is who? They're like the same person. Yes. Would you ask my hobbies? Like, know what? I love working out. I don't do it enough. I need to do that. I mean, I love my kids' sports. I'm super into their stuff. I don't mind traveling. I think I get probably made fun of for how much I'm on the move and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think I have a lot of hobbies and I'm not sure what they are. People will be like, what about this? I'm like, oh yeah, I love to do that. I will tell you what it's not. I'm not like this, like addicted to golf person. Like most of my friends that are into golf, they're like, oh yeah, I was 192 out on hole number 11. And I'm like, wait, which one was 11? Like, what club did you use? Like, did I even bring my sand wedge from the last hole? Kind of, like that's more me. So I don't know. It's not that. It's not that yet, I would say.
So you do play golf, but it is not a passion and hobby.
Yeah, like it's hard not to play golf sometimes when you get to be my age. It's like what everybody does. It's kind of like pickleball. Like whether you want to be into pickleball or not, you better at least get good enough to hang, to get your serves in. I would say.
All right, and the next thing I'm curious about is, I'm sure sports are probably on the Hasselbeck TV quite a bit when it's on. But when it's not sports, like what's like a go-to guilty pleasure show or a movie? Like, do you have a favorite genre? Like something you'll go back to and rewatch? Where would you go in terms of entertainment?
It's really funny. We don't watch a ton of TV. I will say this though. A lot of people come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, who you look exactly like? Like that's what they'll say to me. And I'm always like, okay, what bald white guy now? Like that's kind of what the thing is, right? Well, for some really weird reason, for years, this is going back to like maybe even like 2010, people would be like, you look like the dude on The Americans. And I'm like, what is The Americans? And there's this dude, he's got kind of like a Bobby Brady afro, kind of like curly hair, big hair, not bald, basically, is my point. And this is the guy that everyone thought I looked like. So I don't know. I don't necessarily see it, but it's a great show. And I love that show. It's like my favorite show. So we binge watched The Americans for years. And so I'm into shows like that. I would say like Reacher is a show that is out right now that I would say is kind of in that same genre of stuff we would watch if we chose to do that and had the time.
All right. Well, we now know a little bit more. And I got to say, I'm happy to see that you were available today because I wasn't sure if maybe you'd be out at the Colts facility doing a tryout.
Well, this is actually what I thought you were going to say, because my phone started blowing up. It's like in kind of a condescending way, kind of like a making fun of me way, like they probably see me power walking, with a weight vest pumping my arms kind of thing. Like, oh, you think you could do it? But it makes total sense to me that the Colts would want Phillip Rivers, that Phillip Rivers would want to try out for the Colts, because I think some of it, like when you're at the end, like, so I'll say this, my last year, I was beat up, like completely. I was 40 years old. I was beat up. Like I um, didn't break ribs, but I had ripped some rib cartilage off the bone in my ribs. Lost my hearing for a little while, like months, because I took a helmet to the chin from Whitney Merciless so hard that it like sprained my jaw. Lost hearing in my ear. I couldn't chew on the right side for like almost 8 months. Like not confidently. It was not fun, is my point. Got sick, got poisoned from Chipotle. I've forgiven them. We've made amends. Great place. But it was a tough year. So I was like ready to be done. I'm sure Phillip Rivers had a similar experience. But about a year later, it's almost like Pavlov's dog, like training camp comes around. You're like feeling like, yeah, I could do this. I mean, I feel better than I did 3 years ago. And so you couple that with, I think he's coaching high school football. I'm coaching high school football. I get it. You're just standing there throwing football. Your arm feels kind of great, So like it kind of makes sense on paper and in your mind. I don't know about the rest of it. I mean, you got to be pretty desperate as a team. But then again, there's the relationship, there's the trust. He's a potential Hall of Famer. And so much of what happens at the line of scrimmage right now with the quarterbacks getting you into the right play, especially with a team like Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. I mean, watch Sam Darnold. How many times does he ever call play, just gets up there and runs the play? It's always alert, check, kill, we're good, let it roll. There's all this stuff at the line of scrimmage. So having like that coach on the field is obviously incredibly valuable, and well, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I'm kind of excited to watch.
Well, Phillip Rivers is 44, as best I can tell. He has 10 kids. And
how many grandkids, though?
He has got some grandkids, too. I don't have that in front of me. His oldest is Hallie, who is 23. His oldest daughter is 2 years older than Nick Emanwari, who he would potentially be lining up against.
It happens. Listen, Brett Favre was a grandfather when he played. I think maybe Josh McCown was a grandfather when he played. Maybe, Sean Landeta was the punter for the 85 Giants. I remember they lost to the 85 Bears. My dad was on that team. I grew up. I mean, that Landeta was one of my dad's teammates. He ended up playing with me in Green Bay. I thought I was being a smart Alec. And I was like, hey, dude, you played with my dad. And he was like, yeah, well, your goal should be to play with my kids someday. I was like, oh, shoot, And then Landeta went on to be teammates with my brother in Philly, too. So, I mean, it can happen. It's pretty wild. Usually at punter, kicker, Jan Stenerud type positions, not quarterback necessarily. But, hey, I mean, people are not investing in the quarterback position. I think quarterbacks aren't getting coached very well at all in college. There's this like 7-on-7 culture of what guys look like on Instagram and what they can do in a t-shirt and shorts. And that is not 11-on-11 tackle football. That's why you have so many draft busts. You have so many people that don't know what they're doing, evaluating quarterbacks, judging quarterbacks, coaching quarterbacks. And so that's why we're in this predicament. You're pulling dudes off literally, their spouses are planning their 50th birthday party already, and you're seeing if they can go play a kid's game. So it's a little rant, but it's true.
No, I'm interested in that, and I'll come back to it in a second. I was kind of thinking, Matt, you've got a sizable family, like it's more than 2. And Phillip Rivers has 10 kids. I'm thinking about the dinner bills for that guy. And not only that, but imagine, like, I don't know if you know Phillip, but like, imagine like making the decision. Are we going to invite the Rivers over for a barbecue? And you're like, oh, shoot.
Well, I would say this. My mom's one of 12. And like I'm the oldest grandchild, and really on both sides of my family. And you don't need to invite anybody over for the barbecue. Like you are the barbecue. And I would also say that like the kids start helping you, built-in babysitters and helpers and dishwashers and trash taker outers. And like that family did it. And my mom's hosting a big family, I guess we'd call it like a Christmas party here on this Saturday. And I think everyone's out of town. And it's a 52 person RSVP right now. Like it just, and I'm like, how are you going to do this? And they're like, oh, we'll just figure it out. You know, it's like, tell me you grew up in a house with like 14 people without telling me. Like, you just like, yeah, we're good. You know,
let's go, Mama Hasselbeck. That's impressive. I love that. Yeah, we'll get more into kind of the Colts and some of this stuff. I couldn't resist going there to start, but we should start a little chronologically or go back chronologically.
And I'll just tell you one other thing, just on that too. Like I got calls, you know, for years, like, you know, like I don't know how many years, like too many that I wouldn't even consider it at the end. You know, it's just like, hey, would you, you know, like I got calls when Andrew Luck was hurt. I got calls just to be some young quarterback's backup. Like there is a desperation for organizations to either surround their young quarterback with a veteran guy that they want him to grow up to be like, or to like, hey, can you just steer the ship? We don't really need you to do anything. Just steer the ship, throw a fade here or there when necessary, but like just do it. There's a need. And I'm sure Phillip Rivers isn't the only guy that's gotten calls like this. It's a sad state of where the development of quarterbacks is.
Yeah, I'm trying to juxtapose that with the fact we've got all these reclamation stories in the NFL that used to be never happen, where a Baker Mayfield and a Sam Darnold and a Geno Smith or whoever have kind of had this renaissance. So like, is that also more evidence that maybe the development is not happening before they get to the pros?
Yeah. And I think also that they were with situations that were bad. You know, Baker was in Cleveland. Sam Darnold was at the Jets. Daniel Jones was in that revolving door at the New York Giants. Like it's not fertile soil for a young quarterback. Like it's just not. So like, there's definitely that. And I would, you know, those are, you know, like where they ended up, they went places that understand how to coach the quarterback, and they went places that understand how to develop a quarterback. And I think young quarterbacks and agents and, you know, dads of quarterbacks, I think they like, hey man, I'll just take that. I'll go be Kyle Shanahan's backup. I would rather be Kyle Shanahan's backup than somebody else's starter. And I even remember my first year in the NFL, I was with the Green Bay Packers. The quarterbacks were Brett Favre, Doug Peterson, and then me. And Rick Meyer was the quarterback of the Chicago Bears. He had a early start in Seattle. It looked promising. It didn't finish that great. And then he went to Chicago, and it was like kind of a huge letdown. And Rick Meyer was being sought after to be other people's potential starters. And what he did is he was like, you know what? I would rather go be the third string quarterback with Mike Holmgren and Andy Reid and all those guys and back up Brett Favre and take, you know, one step backwards to take two steps forward. And it was really a smart move on his part. A short time later, he became the Jets starter, I think. But it bumped me to the practice squad. That's how I got to the practice squad. So this idea of going and getting in fertile soil and getting with a group of people that do know how to coach the quarterback, it's not necessarily new. I think this has just been a great example of a couple guys that have done it. And I think, you know, using this year, like I think Mac Jones is a guy that's trying to do it. He's in the middle. But for sure, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Baker, there's a bunch of guys that have taken that route.
Was there any call that was tempting to you where you actually were like, maybe?
Yeah, there was one. But, you know, I think this is the thing that I've talked about for many years. Like even when everyone in the world was like, when's Tom Brady going to retire? When's Tom Brady going to retire? I always felt like it was more about family than it was about football. You know, and I think for me, like going back, like the biggest thing for me was that my kids were starting high school. And we had moved around all over the place, and I kind of dragged them, and I was chasing my dream. And at some point, it's about letting your family kind of chase their dreams, whether it's your spouse or your kids or whatever. And like, maybe I could squeeze another year or two out, but then what? You know, we're going to move during sophomore year of high school. Like that's a little different than moving during like 5th grade or 8th grade, something like that. So I think that ultimately, and I bet you this is these are like family decisions that, someone like Phillip Rivers will have with the family. And again, like I said, 10 kids, you got built-in babysitters and your oldest is 23 or something. Like they don't need you as much as they used to need you, I guess is how I'd say that.
Yeah, I don't know if this applies to you or not, but the way you answered that makes me curious. I think, I worked in corporate world for like 26 years and then ended up transitioning into this. And part of it was a similar conversation is like, I had kind of had my chance to build my career, and it's my wife's opportunity. And so I've kind of become a little bit more of the house spouse, taking on more responsibilities. And I'm curious if that's at all part of the thing for you. And if you are more of a house spouse than you once were, which I'm guessing you have to be more, how's that transition been for you?
I don't know if this applies to other professions, but in football, professional athletes and coaches, I think sometimes there's strife in the house when you come back into the house. Like for my wife, this house is running completely fine when I'm at training camp, I'm in season, I'm 6.5 days a week. Like it's good. And so then I'm all of a sudden home for like 2 months straight. And I'm like, oh, we should do this. And that should go there. And she's like, we're good, dude. Like we're good, So I don't know. I don't really have I don't know that I have the answer. What I try to do is have like this little bit of like adjusting period where I'm just a little worker bee. I'm not a boss of anything. I just kind of help out as much as possible.
Well, speaking of worker bees, the Seahawks did some amazing work in Atlanta, as we talked about at the jump. What did you see in that game on both sides of the ball?
Well, I just think like right now we're at this time where so many teams have just given up. Like they've already moved on to the next year. They're playing guys. They're not necessarily playing like the best 11 guys. They're seeing what they got for next year. And I'm not speaking specifically only about the Falcons. There's just a lot of teams that they're just out. They're just out there running plays. They're playing games because they have to, and it's completely different from the teams that can kind of like taste it. Like they're like, we're right there, guys. 4 more weeks, like the fourth quarter of the season, so to speak. Like we're right here, finish strong, run through the line, play to the whistle. Like that's how they're feeling about the season. Like we're ascending. And these other teams, like literally, they're like, hey, what are we doing this offseason? When am I scheduling my offseason surgery? Should I just have it now so I'm more ready for next year? Or should I wait till the end of the year? Like I'm not waiting. Like for who, for what? Like that's the vibe to me. And so the danger is you go into a game like that and you think that the team's just going to roll over, and they will roll over, but not right away. Like you got to make them roll over. And I think it took a little while. I thought it took a little while in this game. I want to say it was 6-6 at halftime. And I mean, it wasn't like, oh, here we go. But then obviously they rolled over and there was blood in the water. And then we just started defensively, just let's run all of our fun blitzes that we practiced that we weren't really planning on using, but let's just use them all. So whoever our next 4 opponents are, they got to draw these up. They got to talk about them. They got to meet about them. They got to practice about them. They got to do stats on them. And maybe we find one that we love, and that's kind of what kind of game it was for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned kind of where teams are at this time of year in different places, and there was 2 games, the Seahawks game being one of them, but I could just see the body language. The body language changed of even the way Bijan Robinson was running after the game kind of got out of hand. You could just see the starch was kind of out of that team. And then the Rams game against the Cardinals, there was out and out just jogging going on the Cardinals, where it just seems like that team has stopped playing. And it makes me think about a team. You guys were in 2002, you guys were 2-6. And there could have easily been that kind of end to the season. That was the season you ended up just taking off and really building what was the foundation for what became a really successful team. So how do teams like handle these moments differently?
Well, that was a situation where I feel like Mike Holmgren's job was on the line.
It was.
And, like there's all situations. Sometimes I don't want to say you quit on a coach, but you're just kind of like, man, this guy's not going to be here. And then there's other situations where like, man, we got to do this for our coach. And I think Mike Holmgren, he came in and man, was he like just scary to be around. Like he was just intimidating physically, verbally, like everything about it. And then he really that season like showed a real human side. Like, hey guys, this is all I got. Like this is the best 7-man protection I got. Like, if you can't make this work, then I can't coach in this league. Like, this is the best I got. And he kind of like turned it over. He came to me at some point in that season. We had a really young offense. We had guys like Corin Robinson and Daryl Jackson, and Bobby Ingram was like the older guy. And we were playing a bunch of different tight ends. And he came to me and he was like, listen, we're not going to win games unless we get way more aggressive. And so I'm going to get way more aggressive. And you don't have to change a thing. Like, I'm going to call 4 verts. I'm going to do all this stuff. And if you love it, take it. If you don't, just give me a completion and I'll call it again and again and again. And that was like the human side of it, like the psychology of it was so good. And I don't remember exactly how we finished, but I think we were number 1 in the league on third down the rest of that season. We were number 1 in a lot of categories. Now, some of it is because our defense was struggling so bad. It's easier to be better. And some of it was like, screw it. Let's go. Let's try. And I think that year we finished in San Diego against the Chargers. They needed to win to get it. Like, they were fully playing with like the guys, Rodney Harrison, like Junior Seau was there. That was the leadership of that team. And we were a team that, like, listen, if we lose this game, I think everyone's gone. And, it was like one of those cut it loose games. I think that was a pivotal game for me in my career and for our team and for our franchise. And that was like a situation where, kind of like you're talking about, we could have just kind of rolled over or whatever, but like we didn't. And I just remember Toback and some of those guys were like, hey, if we don't win, Coach Mike's in trouble. Like, everything you got here. And to us, at the time, we thought like, oh, this is like a playoff game, until we got in playoff games and we're like, oh shoot, that was nothing like playoff game. But it was to us at the time. And so there's a psychology there that definitely happens.
Well, and so then let's talk about a different end of finishing, which is what the Seahawks are in now. They win out now, Matt, and they get the number 1 overall seed. They get a bye, they get home field advantage. All that's in front of them. And I look at, the 2005 team, and you guys had a finishing stretch where you played a San Francisco 49ers team that finished that year 4-12, a Tennessee Titans team that finished that year 4-12, a Colts team that was really good but did not play Peyton Manning, we talked about before. And so you guys had this opportunity to kind of really accelerate into the playoffs. But then the 2013 Seahawks team that also went to the Super Bowl, people forget their last month of the season, they went 2-2. They dropped a game to the 49ers. They dropped a game to Carson Palmer and the Arizona Cardinals, bunch of turnovers in that game. And they kind of were limping a little bit into the playoffs. How does a team...
And you could even point to plays in that playoff run that if that one play doesn't happen, they don't move on.
Right.
And most teams can say that. Like, that's a thing. No, well, I think the league has changed. Like, the NFL doesn't let you have kind of meaningless games in your last month. I mean, I remember seeing like every year, the Eagles and the Buccaneers would just play their backups like a preseason game in the week 17 game. And it was like, and then they play each other the next week in the playoffs. Like, the league has eliminated the opportunity for that. They have all these really meaningful games. Now the Seahawks are in a great division, a team with 10 wins, a team with 9 wins, and then the Seahawks also. So like, they're going to have to play the Rams again. They got to play the Niners again. And so no matter what, like, there's going to be really, really meaningful games. What I love about their situation is that they control their own destiny, because everything that I ever learned in the NFL was all about, we're going to go 1-0 each week. Like, if we go 1-0 each week, then we accomplish all of our goals. All we got to focus is on is just going 1-0. And sometimes it's coach talk, but like, this is legitimate. Like, this is absolutely real. It's all you got to do, one game at a time. All you got, 60 minutes. Don't judge the schedule. Don't judge the month. Just hone in. And then you can hone in on kind of the things that they call December football, which are details.
Yeah, that's obviously every coach talks about going 1-0. So do you think it is helpful? Is that kind of your point here, that it's helpful that each of these games, other than maybe the Colts now is looking a little bit different, but each of these games kind of speaks for itself. You don't have to convince the team to take the opponent seriously. Yeah.
And listen, it's still the NFL. Like, you can still lose to anybody. Mm-hmm. I mean, that absolutely, you can lose to anybody. The Saints won this week. The Titans won this week. Like, you can lose to anybody. It's not college football. You better buckle it up and be ready to go, because sometimes it's dangerous playing a team like that. Sometimes it's dangerous playing a team that Hey, we got nothing to lose. We're going to cut it loose. We're going to be aggressive. All our tendencies that we've done that don't matter, everything you've studied, we're going to use it against you. Like that's okay. That can happen too. So, and maybe you do play against a team that has a young rising star quarterback that you don't know about at the time. You're not playing some stiff. You just don't know it yet. No one does, not even his own team. So I think that's the way you do it. I think you also like there's roster management in terms of like how healthy you get, how much you use a guy. Like the Detroit Lions, I thought limped across the finish line last year and then never got to the finish line because of it. And so how many carries you give your running backs, how you deal with injuries on the offensive line, snap counts for D linemen, just like all the stuff, like that's where having some experience matters. But I think the biggest thing offensively is like not necessarily swinging the axe harder. It's more just like sharpening the blade. And so for me, I would say, okay, running backs. Yes, you're a running back, but we need to like fine tune and sharpen the blade on how we catch the ball. Like we can't have drops. If we're going to be this kind of offense, checkdowns for our quarterback is a major thing. We had 100% of the drops in this game. Our position, this room right here, we got to sharpen the blade. Quarterback, you got to protect the ball, obviously, and throw it. I'll talk about that. Using your legs helps us. We don't need you to take any extra hits, but that's a part of our game. Let's sharpen the blade there. Wide receivers, tight ends, blocking downfield. Too many plays where the guy making the tackle is someone we could have blocked, and like that, let's sharpen the blade. And to me, that's December football. That's like locking in on the details when everyone else is, calling the moving company and scheduling something for January. And that's the difference. And I think that's why just going 1-0, sharpening the blade, finding the details, and really focusing on them, not sweeping anything under the rug. That's what you do offensively. And then there's a whole different set of things that you do on the other side of the ball.
Love that. And it's been a really unique season. And all the seasons I've watched the Seahawks dating back to the 80s, when there's a team this good that has the number one defense in a lot of ways, has an offense that's second highest scoring offense in the NFL, highest point, like all these things going really well. But there's just this hesitation. Like a lot of people are not quite bought in. And I think a lot of it has to do with Sam Darnold, where people are like, this guy just, I don't trust him. He's not gonna do it. And he started out this game, Matt, and I thought looked a little bit off, still looked a little bit not quite what he had been. And then it seemed like the last drive of the first half, he made the throw to Rashid Shaheed. He made the throw to AJ Barner, both in rhythm. And it seemed like from there on out, he was a different player. What did you see from him in this game?
Well, I think that was 2 minute, right? Wasn't that a 2 minute drive?
It was.
Yeah. And, I think he also had like a QB sneak on that drive. I could be wrong.
He did.
Which, I don't know if he got hit. I don't know if he got hit. Yeah. I don't know if he got hit to that point. And he called it. Like it wasn't like no one expected it, especially the defense. But sometimes as a quarterback, like you want to get a hit, you get a rhythm. I thought they just played careful. Okay. And I'll say this, like, I have given this talk in quarterback rooms. I remember giving this talk to Andrew Luck. So someone probably gave it to me. When I played in Indianapolis, I was friends with some like race car drivers there. And I'd go to the Indy 500 and I'd go to some of these races. And like you try to learn things from other sports. One thing I learned there is that all you can do early in a race is lose the race, like be out of the race. Get hurt or lose your car or whatever. And so sometimes you get into a race like that, okay, the goal here is what? To win the race. And so it's okay to like feel them out. You're playing a wounded animal. You're playing a team with like kind of nothing to lose. Like we don't know. And so, yeah, I thought they played careful, played a little safe. But like, it was just kind of like a boxer just boxing, we're feeling each other out. It felt like an IndyCar race, like where you're just kind of, we're doing laps, we're setting them up, we're doing all our personnel groupings, shiftings, and we're gonna crack the code and beat you down at some point. And so like that's kind of what I thought the style of the game was early. But I don't know. That just it reminded me of that.
Do you believe that this is the Seahawks team and Sam Darnold are legitimate Super Bowl contenders?
Yeah, I think the hesitation is a little bit like on the national media side, it's just because they don't know, they don't watch. But I think for Seahawks fans, the Super Bowl is going to be in theory the two best teams in the whole league. But the problem with that is it's the best team from the AFC and the best team from the NFC. The two best teams in the NFL might both be in the NFC West. Like that's just the fact. It might actually be harder to win this division than it is to win the Super Bowl in like a weird way. Or maybe you have to sort of beat the best team in the league to go win the Super Bowl. And I think that's got to factor in a little bit. And then, oh, by the way, there's this pesky Niners team that is a little bit of a kryptonite thing for us at times. They're a good team. And they haven't been playing full strength, but they're certainly capable. So, yeah, I don't know. I think, the other thing, like you had mentioned, that on the national scene, like I listened to the radio last night and people were just the same old about Sam Darnold. And it's like, I don't know that you know what you're talking about. So I think that's a factor also.
I got to follow up there. I'll let you go. People that say it's the same old. What do you think when you see Sam Darnold?
Well, it reminds me of this. When we would game plan or scout a team that we were playing, we had a phrase. It was nameless faces. Nameless faces. Like it's hard. Like I use an example of a great player, Champ Bailey. He was a great player. Like in my career, Charles Woods and Champ Bailey were two of the best corners that we would see regularly. Well, when I was in Indianapolis, Champ Bailey's near the end of his career. He's playing for the Denver Broncos. He wasn't the same player that he was, once upon a time. That's no disrespect for him. He's a great player. However, when we're going up in the game plan, like it sounds so much better when you say, hey, 24, he stands up, he can't run very well, he's aggressive, he's confident, he's smart, we can double move this guy. So we go into the game plan saying, what's our game plan today? We want to double move 24. Like, okay, cool. We're double moving 24. All of our throws underneath are going to be on the other guy. And if we're taking shots, we're double moving 24. Like that's a nameless face. We're not going to get skewed by the fact that like, this is a Hall of Famer. Like, oh, we're going to pick on Champ Bailey. Like we're not going to pick on Champ Bailey, but we're absolutely going after number 24 and seeing if he can run with T.Y. Hilton, our young guy, that's what we're doing today. And so I think like when you study film or you evaluate what's going on this year, this football season, the best thing you can do is nameless faces. How is 14 playing for the Seahawks? Like how's that quarterback doing? What do we notice with him? Instead of saying like, oh, is Sam Darnold the best quarterback in the NFL, or is Lamar Jackson the best? That's why nameless faces is an absolute thing. There's quarterbacks this year be like, hey guys, he's going to throw us 5 interceptions this game for interceptions. He's going to, hey, this guy this year, number whatever, he's a fumbler. He's going to fumble. We get around that ball. We're not going for sacks. We're going for the ball. If we get sacks, great. We're going for the ball. So nameless faces is the way you do it. And if you go nameless faces on Sam Darnold, it's been excellent. It's been really, really good. Room for improvement? Yes, for sure. You can say that about everybody. But that's what I think is so exciting about what this team can be, what this team probably will be. I do think they're still improving and still, with Shaheed, they're still getting better. They're still getting to know each other. And I don't think that's anywhere near a finished product, that relationship quite yet.
Yeah, well, Matt, folks love these Tuesdays. The Mad Ball says Hasselbeck Day is my second favorite day of the week after game day. And quarters
can I
only.
Can I give you a slogan from a guy that I used to train with, Mark Verstegen? Might have been a Coug actually, down in Arizona. Every day is game day. Okay. When you're training, every day is game day in one way or the other. So, but I appreciate it. And Mark Verstegen actually wrote a book called Every Day is Game Day. I think that's how much he had it imprinted in my head and probably everyone else's.
I think it's on the way to being every day is game day for the Seahawks the rest of the way. Quarters only says, shout out to Brian and Matt's charity work. My wife works for Salesforce. Her department needs to set up end of the year donations, and I pointed them your guys' way. So Team Impact, awesome. Remind people what we're working on here, Matt.
Yeah, Team Impact matches NCAA athletes with kids with disability or disease, and it makes them teammates. 2-year commitment. They're on the team. They win national championships. They lose games. They're there for the injuries. They're there for the highs and the lows. It's been incredible to see the work that Team Impact has had, the impact it's had on the kids. It's also the impact that it's had on the older kids, the NCAA kids. It's a great organization, and I've been partnered with them for a very long time. Teamimpact.org is the website, and a lot of great charities out there, but this is certainly one. And what I love most about it is it gives these kids something that medicine could never give them. And it's really powerful, really, really powerful.
Love it. Love it. Appreciate your time as always, Matt. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. See you, Brian.
All right. That was Matt Hasselbeck, Ring of Honor member, Seahawks legend, and, absolute top 50 player in Seahawks history. Amazing to have him on every week. I'll be talking to his daughter tonight at 5 o'clock with the Seahawks Collective, so make sure you check us out there for that conversation with Michael Sean Dugar and Rob Staten. And I thought a lot of great stuff from Matt. I mean, it's always a lot of great stuff from Matt, but the state of where the quarterback position is, the desperation of teams, and, I'll give you a little bit more on what's going on with the Colts. We'll talk about that, but it's really interesting to me the way teams finish, and it has been on my mind about the way that some of the different Super Bowl teams finished their seasons. And the Seahawks they've got a tough finishing stretch. There's no way around it. Like, it's a tough finishing stretch. And if you look at as I said, the 2005 Seahawks team had an easy finishing stretch, and they had an easy division, the worst division like maybe ever. It was a really bad division. It was just like the Patriots had so many terrible divisions over their Tom Brady and Bill Belichick era. And the 2013 squad, they had a game against the 49ers. That team finished 12-4 that year. We remember how good they are. They lost that game in San Francisco, 17-19. They had a game home against the Giants. That was a 7-9 Giants team. They beat them 23-0. So that was solid. Then they lost to the Cardinals, a Cardinals team that was 10-6 that year. And in that game, Carson Palmer threw 4 interceptions. They still beat the Seahawks in Seattle, 17-10. And then they finished the season with a game against the St. Louis Rams, who were 7-9 that season, and they won that 27-9. But in each of those games to end that season, you had I understand why people are worried about Sam Darnold. I'm not trying to fool anybody with, like, there's nothing to worry about. If you go back and you look at the way Russell Wilson and the offense finished, I distinctly remember all the alarm bells of, like, what has happened to this offense. The Seahawks are limping to the finish line. This is what Russell Wilson did in those final 4 games of the 2013 season. He went 15 of 25 for 199 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and an 81 rating against the 49ers. He went 18 for 27 for 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, an 86 rating against, and 4 sacks. He got sacked 4 times in each of the last 3 games. Against Arizona, he went 11 for 27. That's like a Caleb Williams stat line. 108 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 4 sacks, 49.6 rating. The final game, 15-23, 172 yards, 1 touchdown. Finally did not throw an interception after 3 straight games with an interception. Had 102 rating, but was sacked 4 times. Those were pretty much the 4 worst games of that season for Russell Wilson heading into the playoffs. And I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen to Sam Darnold, but I am saying that did happen to the best team in Seahawks history when they had a tough finishing stretch. The 2014 squad, actually, I haven't looked at this. They finished, it was a little different season. They were not just dominating. They had actually, at one point, they were 3-3. Even later in that season, they were, they were 3-3, and then they won a bunch. But, they were 8-4 heading into the final month of the season. They had a game against the Philadelphia Eagles. That was a 10-win Eagles team. They won. This was in Philadelphia. They won 24-14. They had a game at home against the 49ers, who that year 8-8. They were not the same team that season. A game at Arizona against the 11-5 Cardinals. They stomped them 35-6. I believe that was the Beast Quake 2 game where Marshawn just ran roughshod. They had 600 yards of offense in that game. And then the final game of the season was against a 6-10 St. Louis Rams team, and they won that game 20-6. So a mixed bag there. 2 of the 4 games were tough. That might be kind of a similar stretch to what the Seahawks are going to face, because as it stands right now with the Colts, I mean, let's take a look at the latest line, but last I checked, it was 12.5 in favor of the Seahawks. And let's see if it still is. Has it shifted at all? 12.5 is a pretty big number. Hard to match. Oh, it is up to 13.5. Oh my God. So yeah, that number keeps moving. It is now the largest spread of the week. The Seahawks are favored by 13.5 over the Colts. That is more than the 49ers are favored over the Titans at home. To give you some idea, that is wild. And I think that's, that should be the likely outcome. You've got, it sounds like Riley Leonard is going to play based on when I listened to the coach talk about it. He's got a knee issue. They're going to kind of check it out, but they're hopeful he's going to play. Phillip Rivers would be brought in if he is going to come in as a backup. And look, I will say this. The Colts are a proud team that have played very, very well. They were the best team in football for a while in terms of a lot of numbers and have kind of come back to earth. There's quality. They have a great offensive line. They have a great running game, a great running back. They have good receivers. They have a good defensive line. They have, it's a quality team. And if they decide that they are going to reclaim the narrative and that they're going to go in against the big bad Seahawks, and they get even somewhat competent quarterback play, they can be a tough team. They're not, I don't think they're the Falcons, and I don't think that they are the Vikings, and I don't think that they are even the Titans. So I don't know that I think 13.5 is where this is going to go, but the Seahawks have taken care of business. And I think even with Daniel Jones is playing, I think the Seahawks were the better team. But, you look at that game and then you look at the Panthers game, and the Panthers are a good team. I think they've got a real decent shot to win the division. And those are the two that the Seahawks will probably be most favored to win. And in between, you got the Rams and you got the 49ers, on either end of those games. So it's a tough finishing stretch. It may have gotten easier, with Daniel Jones getting out for this game. And it'll be really, really interesting. Is Sam Darnold going to have an end to the 2025 season that looks like, Russell Wilson's end? Is Sam Darnold going to have an end to the 2025 season that is like Russell Wilson's end to the 2013 season? And if he does that mean that the Seahawks are doomed, or does it mean that the Seahawks might actually go win a Super Bowl like that team did? And then I also just wonder if this team can pick up steam by beating all of these tough opponents and enter the playoffs even more confident of what they're capable of doing. Because here's the thing. I'll tell you, well, there's two things. One, I'm pretty sure this Seahawks team entered the game against the Rams the first time and really thought they were going to win that game. And I think they thought they were going to win, not necessarily comfortably, but I think they thought they were going to win convincingly. And there's a lot of evidence that was a reasonable way to feel. And we've talked a lot about that game and why it turned out the way it did. And the Rams get all the credit. I don't think that, the Seahawks just, screwed up. Like, the Rams won that game. They did. But there is a path forward here where the Seahawks do in the game against the Rams next week, where what they thought they were going to do the first time. And it's part of a strong finish that gets them the number 1 seed. And I'm here for that. So, that's the one thing there is I think the Seahawks are more confident in their ability against the Rams than I think anybody else is, for what it's worth. And I think they feel like they've got unfinished business there. I think Ernest Jones was playing on a flat tire, to use an Abe Lucasism, in that game. His knee was not right. He didn't play the next week against Tennessee. I think he's in a different place than he was then. There's a lot of things that I think are going to be a little bit different. Julian Love didn't play in that game. Jaron Reed didn't play in that game. There's other things that were different. By the way, Jalen Sundell didn't play in that game. We'll find out what he's going to be used as this week. But the other thing is, as I mentioned yesterday, I was like, all these Seahawks fans that are holding their breath and not diving in with 2 feet because of Sam Darnold, because there's this one thing about this team that gives you pause. And I'm like, have you looked around the league? Have you ever looked around? Did you watch the Monday Night Football game last night between the Eagles and the Chargers? I mean, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. Jalen Hurts had 5 turnovers in that game. And that's a guy that, for the most part, hadn't been turning the ball over like that. But he's playing terrible football. Eagles fans are losing their minds about Jalen Hurts. And all of these teams, there's so many of these teams that have some sort of significant weakness or question. And the thing with the Eagles is it's not only, can Jalen Hurts throw the football? They've got a myriad of question marks with that team. The defense, running game, offensive line play, injury, team chemistry, all of that stuff's going on, right? I think you'd rather be, even though they just won the Super Bowl and everyone's like, they can do it. I think you'd rather be the Seahawks than the Eagles. And that might sound obvious, but I think a lot of people might not feel that way. I do. I also looked around just to see, okay, who are all the quarterbacks that have a bunch of interceptions this year? It's interesting to see that. Here's the guys. I'm going to read the names of the guys with 10 or more interceptions this year. The first one is Dak Prescott, who has 10 picks. He leads the NFL in QBR. That's ESPN's quarterback system. Then you've got Patrick Mahomes with 10 picks. He is 4th in QBR with 69.4. Josh Allen, 10 picks. By the way, he's pretty much the same as Sam Darnold. 22 touchdowns, 10 picks. He is 6th in QBR. Sam Darnold, 22 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So one more interception than Josh Allen, and he is 8th in QBR. So you're in this company of Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. I know he also has fumbles. I'm well aware of all that. But I think people are mostly concerned about the interceptions and that. And at least based on that, another guy, the next guy down on the list with 11 interceptions or 10 or more, in this case, is Justin Herbert. 22 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Very much, the same kind of season that Sam Darnold's having, except Justin Herbert, 14th in QBR, much fewer yards, much lower yards per attempt, much lower passer rating, a lot of things there. I can kind of keep going down the list. Trevor Lawrence is the next guy down the list. He has 18 touchdowns, so fewer touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He's 22nd in QBR. These are all playoff teams, guys. And all of those teams I just mentioned have a quarterback that's thrown for 10 or more picks. Sam Darnold's got 11. I'm also curious, as I haven't looked at this, but just like the finishing 4 games for the Vikings last year and how Sam Darnold did in those games. We know how he did against Detroit. One of those games was against Seattle. We know how he did in there. He was excellent. He had a game against Chicago. He was okay in that one. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 230 yards. And then he was excellent against the Seahawks. 3 touchdowns, no picks, game-winning score, game-winning touchdown pass. Then he went home to Green Bay against Green Bay, 33 of 43 for 377 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Was only sacked 1 time. And then you had the stinker against the Lions where he was 18 of 41 for 166 yards. He wasn't picked, but he was sacked a couple of times. He had no touchdown passes. So it was just an ugly game, but he didn't make a bunch of turnovers. So his final month of the season was 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and only one game where he was sacked more than 2 times. So that's not like a bad finishing stretch. But anyway, just some stuff that's gotten on my mind. I will update you guys on some stuff we heard from Mike Macdonald yesterday, and then we'll kind of wrap. Before I do that, let's talk about this deal from SimplySeattle.com. Right now, if you use code HawkBlogger15, now through December 24th, not only will you get 15% off whatever you buy at SimplySeattle.com, but we will also, part of the Simply Good campaign, donate 5% of whatever you purchase to the Fred Hutch Cancer Center's Patient and Family Assistance Fund, which provides vital help with transportation and temporary lodging for patients fighting for their lives. And if you buy one of the Simply Good hoodies, there's some awesome hoodies, they'll donate another $5 out of your $25 purchase to Fred Hutch as well. So amazing deal. Take advantage. Like, this is only lasting for another couple of weeks. So take advantage. Use code HawkBlogger15 there. Go to jkboots.com/HawkBlogger. Get the best deal on the best boots you're going to own. You put that URL in your browser, jkboots.com/HawkBlogger. Gets you your own special promo code, your own deal. And, we've done a lot of great work with the Wildland Firefighters Foundation, benefiting forest firefighters who protect our Northwest forest. So make sure you take advantage of that. And then, of course, head over to Sleeper, grab the Sleeper app, download it, and you can get $20 without even making a deposit. Check your fantasy football, check out what's going on in the NBA, all that stuff. And if you use promo code Hawks, you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Check out Sleeper. It's awesome. All right. So other bits of news here. So Mike Macdonald did say yesterday that Jalen Sundell is expected to practice this week. He's eligible to come off IR. And when asked if he's going to practice at guard or center, Mike Macdonald was coy about it. And actually, let me pull it up for you guys. Might as well listen to it together. And I think I've got an easy way to access that. Give me one more second. Because he also said some other stuff that I'm going to play it. There's no chance I'm not going to play what Mike Macdonald said yesterday. So hold on. Let me get this queued up. So first, we'll talk about Jalen Sundell. And I think it's around... Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. Sorry. I know roughly where it is. Come on. Okay, here we go. Let me share this. We'll listen to his answer together. I appreciate the patience, guys. And let's get this shared up here for you. Okay.
So it looks like the Colts this weekend, you're going to have a third rookie quarterback and 4 that you guys have gone against.
Our defense is the best we can. I mean, try not to. I mean, you gotta have to go back to quarterbacks, and you're making it each week. Yeah.
I'll ask you again: is he going to practice at guard or center?
Okay.
More than it is, and it's really about like how well we go execute our plan based off of their system and the types of plays that we expect them to run.
Here we go.
You think Jalen Sundell is going to practice this week?
Yeah, Jalen should be. He should be back this week. Yeah.
I'll ask you again: is he going to practice at guard or center?
We'll see.
I figured that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Well, so you see the smirk on his face, and that's what I wanted to make sure you saw. We don't know. We don't know based on that what's going to happen. But there is one part of this that was interesting, and this was not this was not me that asked the question.
Man, that's a doozy right there. You can see the potential. You can say, hey, you're like really excited to work with these guys.
Okay, hold on.
And our coaches have done a phenomenal job of setting out the time to work with them as well. And on the players front, it's have a great attitude, and we practice our young guys a lot, and we coach them. Not sure how everybody else
our way. I'm just kind of curious.
Program.
Okay.
Full job of setting out the time to work. They just do a great job. Every
player who was passed over in April to succeed in this league, and how does your system foster that ability for guys like that?
Yesterday,
Hayakata, Drake Thomas,
all those steps that it takes. Confidence is graded out as our highest off
protection these last several games, including yesterday. Where have you seen the most growth from him this year, working with John Benton as this season has progressed, particularly in the pass protection aspect?
Well, yeah, I think, AB graded out as our highest offensive lineman yesterday, and he's playing hard, and he's got a great punch. I think his overall confidence is like probably at a high point in his career at this point. Practicing really well, practices hard. I mean, doing all those steps that it takes, to end up putting good football out on the field. I know there's some plays that are minuses or plays that aren't up to par, but there's a lot of great plays as well. And I thought he had a good game yesterday.
Well, I think you all probably would have expected me to be asking the question and prompting the coach on that front. I didn't, and it was Corbin who asked that question. And Mike Macdonald I thought that was that wasn't faint praise by any stretch. Like, offered up that he was the highest graded offensive lineman for them in this game, that he felt like he played a really good game, that he's been practicing well, that he's got a lot. He acknowledged that he's got some plays where there's minuses. And it's funny, how many times we have this conversation here, and that I'm like the, number one Anthony Bradford defender out there. I just would say it's it's not me making the decision on who plays, it's the coaches. And the fact that people are like, oh, Anthony Bradford had better PFF grades are stupid, they don't matter. Oh, Brandon Thorne and Brian Baldinger put out some film of all the players that they could highlight. They highlighted Anthony Bradford. Oh yeah, well, he has some highlight plays, but he mostly stinks. And now the coach goes out there and says it, and the responses I saw were, you're trying to tell me they really think that he's good. Like, I don't believe, like, at some point you're telling on yourself that it's not about whether or not Anthony Bradford is good or bad. You've got a point of view you are attached to based off of most likely a lot less information than the people that are making these evaluations. Even PFF, if you don't like them, they watch every single snap multiple times and review how someone else graded it. I mean, I just give a little bit, open up a little bit to the possibility that maybe you're missing something. And the interesting part here is with the Jalen Sundell part and the way he answered that question, there's not a lot of daylight there to figure out where they're going to go, because I would have thought the most likely might have been that they were going to try Jalen Sundell at guard and keep Olu at center. Based on what Anthony Bradford's done the past couple of weeks, I mean, maybe the most likely is Jalen Sundell just comes back and takes over at center. I don't think Jalen Sundell is going to be a backup, but that's a possibility as well. So I think that's the biggest question into this week, how they're going to handle that situation. And I'm really curious. I'm fascinated to figure out how that plays out and how the team responds to whatever they do. It's a big moment, and looking forward to seeing it. All right, folks. I'm going to see if there's a super chat here from Danger Ross 88. Says, what are your thoughts on Elijah Arroyo? Even before the injury, he had been kind of a dud in year one and hasn't shown a lot of separation to my eyes. That's a good question. I don't think he has had the season I was hoping he would have. You know, there's not much. I haven't like really changed my perspective on who he can be. I am curious. He has had a knee injury before. I'm curious if it's the same knee. If that would be concerning. But I'll say this. I mean, you can go back to my tapes after Mobile, after the Senior Bowl, and I was there. Part of what I was looking at is Elijah Arroyo, who I didn't know much about him at the time, but people were raving about how he had, the athletic profile of a receiver to play tight end. And so I was watching him go through drills, and the guy that kept getting my attention was Terrence Ferguson. I was like, I didn't expect Terrence Ferguson to look like a better athlete than Elijah Arroyo. I thought he moved really, really well. And so did the Rams. The Rams ended up taking him, I think, ahead of Arroyo. And Ferguson's been pretty productive for them this year, and they're very excited about him. I think Elijah Arroyo's got more room, more to give. I don't think there's anything about him that I saw in training camp that makes me think that he's not going to be a really good player. It's just about durability and health. I think he's been a much better blocker than I would have expected him to be. And yeah, I would just give him some grace. I mean, AJ Barner didn't put up a lot of yards or was not that productive last year. Arroyo's made some pretty big plays that they're probably hard to remember because there's been a lot of big plays overall, but he has had some big moments. And we'll see how serious this knee injury is. Mike Macdonald says his week might be in jeopardy, but that makes it sound like it might not be that much more than the week. And then I think you get Eric Saubert back, and I think that's a big deal. Hopefully he's available this week, and I think he helps that room quite a bit. We have got another super chat here from OEL. Evan is hilarious about the Rivers news on Twitter. He's like, we will not lose to a grandpa. I will not allow it. Evan is funny. And I'm looking forward to Thursday. We're going to do Real Hawk Talk Thursday night, 5:00, and it will be Evan Hill and Joe Fan, an old crew. So Joe Fan, Evan Hill, Thursday at 5 for Real Hawk Talk this week. That'll be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. And I've got a bunch of stuff going on between now and then, but we'll do my best to keep you guys in the loop on all things Seahawks. We'll have my tail of the tape up at some point. We'll also, do first look tomorrow morning. I don't know if I'm going to bring in a guest or not. I haven't decided yet. And I've got a project I'm working on that is taking up all of my headspace. So I just don't know if I'm going to be able to rally to get a guest. We'll see. And then Thursday, talk to you about Real Hawk Talk. We'll figure out what's going on elsewhere, but it's a busy week for me. I appreciate your patience as things might move around and may not have as many guests as normal, but we'll figure it out. So I think, is there anything else I wanted to talk about that I forgot? There probably is. There's always something, but that gives us tomorrow because we'll be back then. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I appreciate all you folks. I'll say this. There are folks that choose to take an opportunity to misinterpret things I say or twist words that I say and try to make it look bad. And I generally choose to not engage with those folks. I see when folks step in and correct those people, and I appreciate it. So I appreciate you when you go out and say things that I choose not to because I don't want to fan the flame, but you know who you are. So I appreciate you. And if you're one of the people that is trying to twist things, come on, let's do better. With that, have a great rest of your Tuesday. I'm Brian Nemhauser. This has been another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. Take care, y'all.